Hello, you beautiful people. I have missed you. Friends, this is Worm, and it's Monday, which means it's time for another episode of Exotic Recrafting. And today, I wanted to talk about Borealis. Of course, last week we did Hardlight, and I felt like it was appropriate to just cover Borealis because it's kind of in the same boat. But with the Exotic Recrafting series, we talk about exotics that are weak, bad, or straight up underused. I got those reversed, whatever. And today, like I said, we're going to talk about Borealis. And Borealis is an interesting one because, like I said, we just talked about Hardlight last week, and with Hardlight we basically just talked about subclass synergies and some other things, and I think that it's very easy to just do the same thing with Borealis, but at the same time it would make Hardlight just the better option in terms of what what you're going to use for potentially champion shield, or for shields, sorry, not champion shields, we'll talk about that in a second, but for shields and whatnot. And so I wanted to look at Borealis here, and I've got it pulled up on my screen, on the other screen over here, because I wanted to find its own niche, something that involves the shield breaking, because that's the whole persona of the weapon, but something that also makes it stand out from Hardlight, something that would make you go, hey, I want to choose this weapon over Hardlight. Okay, and so with that being said, let's go over the perks here. Of course, first perk is the fundamentals. This is where you can change your elemental your elemental type from solar to arc to void, or I think it's void, arc, solar, in that order. It starts out as void and then go arc and solar. But its other perk here, its other unique perk is Ionic Return. And Ionic Return states breaking a combatant shield or the shield of a guardian using a super with the matched damage type refills the magazine from reserves and grants bonus damage rounds. Breaking a combatant's shield with a chair did the thing again. Breaking a combatant shield with a matched damage type Ionic Return round refreshes the perk. So basically, once you break the shield and get the perk going, if you break another shield, it'll refresh that perk. I think it's like 5 seconds or something like that. And it's a pretty substantial buff. I don't actually have the numbers pulled up here, but I'm pretty sure it's like 50% or something really, really high like that. Unfortunately, doesn't see a lot of use. And I think similar with Hardlight, I think the reason why is because shields they aren't hard to break anymore. And Borealis, just like Hardlight, kind of, it wants to be that shield breaker role. But whenever I could use some random, legendary auto rifle or hand cannon or shotgun to break a shield the exact same way, it doesn't really do much. And yeah, like the bonus damage is nice, but I also don't really think that it's doing much for the weapon. Like, yes, like it's great, it's fantastic to get 50% more damage, but realistically, how often are you going to be able to switch from, say, void to solar to break a solar shield before your teammates just break the shield? And that's one of the big problems with Hardlight. That's one of the big problems with this weapon here. Of course, that's not really going to change, but the first thing that I would really realistically do for Borealis, hey guys, post video recording Worm here to say Borealis can't even break the elemental shields of enemies that its element is matching. And so please, I don't know if this is a bug or what, but you're going to see it frequently throughout the gameplay here. I'm going to be shooting void, solar, and arc shields, and none of them are breaking the shields on the first shot. It's typically taking 2 shots to break. So yeah, that's another thing I want to throw in there just real quick. But yeah, get back to it. Give it intrinsic anti-barrier. We have no snipers in the game that I can think of that have intrinsic anti-barrier, and I think that Borealis would be a perfect fit for that. It's got the whole persona behind it of a shield breaker. Give it anti-barrier rounds, and that would be a fantastic start. But I think we should also rework some of the weapon here and how it works. But beyond anti-barrier rounds, I think that also Ionic Return here is it's not doing quite enough for me. And the way I would change Ionic Return is whenever you break the matched shield, instead of just granting ammo from your reserves, just refill the magazine from thin air. This means if you're on your last bullet, it's got a 5-round magazine. If you're on your very last bullet and you take a shot and you break a shield, you get 5 rounds back into your magazine out of thin air for free. Like, it's an exotic weapon. I don't feel like that is necessarily too much to ask for a weapon like Borealis, and I think that would definitely start to increase the usage that you see from it. But not only that, with this whole Ionic Return perk here, I think that what would be an even better option is when you break the shield, that's when you get the full ammo from reserve or from thin air. But while Ionic Return is active, every kill you get or every maybe 2 or 3 precision shots that you hit, you are reloading the weapon from reserves. So say it carries, I don't know, say let's just say you have 15 rounds. You shoot your first shot there, it breaks an enemy's shield. Now you got Ionic Return up for 5 seconds. Every time you hit a precision shot or you get a precision kill, it reloads ammo from reserves. So you can keep your magazine topped off. And you know what, go a step further here. Ionic Return, the timer on it would be refreshed. Therefore, you get a kill. Now you have a 50% damage buff. You hit a precision shot or get a precision kill, maybe more specific. It reloads around from reserves, and you can kind of keep it going, keep it chaining there. I think that would be a really awesome idea. Or of course, you could rapidly land precision shots and it would do the same thing. Now, the one hesitation I have with the precision shots is, let's say you're at a boss fight and you've got a shielded enemy and you break the enemy's shield with Borealis and you just start laying into the boss and hitting, you know, a crit spot like a divinity, maybe a nice big easy crit spot. And you're doing 50% more damage, you're constantly reloading, like that might be too much. So maybe precision kills would be where I would limit Ionic Return at, so that, you know, you break the shield, you get that 50% damage increase. Every precision kill that you get reloads around from reserves, and you know, it has that 50% damage boost. It keeps that damage boost going. I really think that could be an awesome idea. And I think that with the, you know, we said anti-barrier just a second ago, I think matching or anti-barrier breaking shields should also proc Ionic Return. Now, of course, one of the biggest issues, and we talked about this with Hardlight, is the actual process of switching elements. It just feels so cumbersome. You know, if you're in a Nightfall Strike and you die and you spawn back in and you have Void on your Borealis and there's a solar shield, you got to click and hold reload for a second. Okay, and then it switches over. And then you got to click and hold it again to go from arc now to solar. And it's just, it feels so janky and cumbersome that I just don't really like that. And so just like with Hardlight, what if Bungie, why don't they make it so that when you are targeting an enemy, Borealis will automatically adapt its damage archetype to that shield? So you're running around, let's say, you know, same situation, you die and you were on Void. Then when you're aiming down sights and you lock onto that target, and it doesn't take, like, it's an instant lock on, right? As soon as you aim at, you know, that Centurion and that solar shield, the weapon switches automatically from Void to solar. No special animations, no reloads, anything like that. It just, boom, switches right over, and then you can break that shield immediately. I think that would be such a great idea for both of the weapons, but I think for Borealis, it would be more, I think it's more critical to the weapon. Having something that does that, like, you know, then it's less likely that your team are going to be breaking shields before you get the opportunity to. So ADS, you lock on, you know, you target that enemy, it switches to solar, then it stays on solar until, you know, you aim at the next shield or until you manually switch it. I think the idea of manually being able to switch it is still an important thing, and I still think they should have that. But I think that the ability to automatically adjust its damage type to the enemy that you're attacking would greatly improve its performance. But yeah, I think that's kind of it. I think that if you made all of these changes to Borealis, you would definitely see it shoot way up in usage. I don't necessarily think it would become the new, like, meta, so to speak. Like, maybe I'm wrong here, but yeah, I think that anti-barrier rounds, the ability to adapt its damage just by aiming at a target shield. You could also, you know, I would actually go even a step further and add on, you know, as part of the fundamentals perk, when you break an enemy's shield, it applies an elemental debuff to, you know, whatever shield type that was in its area. You know, when you break a shield with a matching energy type, there's that explosion that damages enemies around the target with the shield. So have it so that it applies elemental debuffs to all those enemies. So, you know, if you break a solar shield with solar, you apply Scorch to all the targets around it. If you break a, you know, Arc Shield, maybe Arc Shield's a little bit different because having Jolt applied to all those targets might be intense, but maybe when you break the shield, it jolts the target whose shield you actually break. And then same thing with Void, when you break a Void shield with the Void element on Borealis, then you get that application of not destabilizing, what is it? Volatile rounds, or volatility on all the enemies surrounding it. I don't know. Like, I think that these changes could make Borealis better. I would definitely want to try it out. I definitely probably end up using it more, especially because, you know, some of these nightfalls, like, it would be really convenient to have a sniper that does this. But yeah, that being said, anti-barrier, the ability to adapt overshields, the ability to have some elemental subclass synergy with those perks, and then of course with ionic return, once you get it going, you can keep it going as long as you're getting kills. And yeah, I think that's really it. I think that you do that for Borealis, it would definitely come back into the fray. But of course, I want to hear your thoughts on it. It's like, Borealis is not something that gets me super excited when I think about it. But when I think about these changes, like, I'm beginning to think like, oh, hey, this could be a cool weapon. This could be something that I really want to try out. But like I said, I want to hear your thoughts on it. Of course, if you like today's video, drop a like, helps the channel out a lot. Subscribe for more daily Destiny content. And guys, do me a favor, watch the videos you see on the end screen here, because for whatever reason, YouTube thinks you'll like them. Guys, I'll see y'all next time. Bye for now.